Scientology, true crime, breaking news, Hollywood with Ignacio Esteban. Thank you for joining us. Welcome back to William Steele True Crime channel, podcast on YouTube and on Rumble and all across social media, as well as on my website. I always forget to mention that, guys. Go to my website, williamsteeleauthor.com. You'll see all these videos up there as well. Because these platforms, if you say the wrong thing or you know whatever reason, they like to pull platforms down without notice. So we have everything backed up on Rumble and on williamsteeleauthor.com. And Rumble went public recently, and it's a rapidly growing platform.
It is.
If I had the money, I'd buy their stock because they're phenomenal. They really are all about free speech. And we love YouTube, but you have to be real clean on YouTube. And that's what I try to be. I try to be inspirational. I caution my guests about use of profanity and all that. So we have back today a wonderful guest, Ignacio Esteban, retired ATF agent, author of 62 books. Now, Ignacio is going to get really deep into a book he just wrote and some information he researched and maybe has personal experiences with. The Church of Scientology. We're going to be looking at cults. We're going to be looking at Scientology today. So, Ignacio, say hello to my audience. Tell them a little bit about your book, your title. And again, please support Ignacio. He gives away many books, but he does sell them. But the links are in the descriptions, and he'll tell you how that program works.
Yes, for sure. And it's under, if you're a Kindle Unlimited subscriber, all my books are included. There are 62 of them, which is fantastic. And if you're not, all my books are under $10. Most some around $9.99, which are pretty lengthy. You get a lot of information, including you can see the poster behind me, ATF Undercover. So I like to dabble in. I like researching, Bill. I think the same with you. I find these cults fascinating. I've always looked, especially when you saw growing up, Jim Jones. We did a show earlier on Jim Jones drinking the Kool-Aid. I'm going to do a show, I think, on David Koresh and McVeigh, what happened there with Branch Davidians. That's also a cult mentality. And I put this in this Scientology. How dangerous of a cult are they? Because they're not a religion. Let's be clear. They're not a religion at all. And I'll make the case why I don't think so. Many governments in the world have really made it difficult. They don't want Scientologists in their country, many English-speaking nations, because, and you can look this up yourself, people who are defectors, their own words. This is documented defectors, what they're saying, what happened. These are famous celebrities. You look at a book that recently came out by this famous actress, Remy. She talks about, she was in a TV shows and all that, how she grew up in there. Lisa Marie Presley was named people who grew up with Scientology. Even though her father, Elvis Presley, when he was introduced, he said, these people, only thing they want is your money. Right. And I want nothing to do with it. But Priscilla, they divorced. She put her in that. So a lot of famous people you're not going to believe are Scientologists are involved in it too. So I'm going to give you a little background about this guy.
Tom Cruise is one of them. I think Travolta.
John Travolta. Yeah. Juliette Lewis is another one. They try to get Brad Pitt. They try to get Seinfeld, Jerry Seinfeld in it. Tom Berenger was, and he said it ruined his marriage, and he left from Platoon. Remember, he's an award-winning actor. Right. Tom Berenger, he was in there. Christopher Reeve, he just passed away. He passed away years ago. He did Superman in the late 70s. He was part of that, and he was disillusioned with them also, and he got out. So, there's so many. The list of celebrities is like endless out there. A lot of people think there's something there in Hollywood that people say, you know what? If you want to play the game with us, you better join this club. This is what I call it. I call it the club. I don't call it. It's pretty much what I see there is nothing good. It's pretty much a racket to make money on the expense of people who are, again, vulnerable, looking for some spiritual answers, where they think they may get the answers, but it costs you a lot of money. Right. And every level you have to go, there's more money you have to pay to go to that next level. And anytime you get into that kind of mentality, there's the only thing you can say about that is mind control, cult, and you have to you cannot be real on people who don't believe in Scientology. They have a term for that. You have to be away from them. You have disconnect. It's called the disconnection program. So anybody who doesn't support Scientology, this is family. You have to disconnect from them. You have no communication with them.
Isolation. Point number one is indoctrination to a cult.
Yes. Yes.
Now,
So
to
who
be
is,
my
who is
audience,
this guy?
the little bit I know about this, I lived in California for a little while. There's a
Yeah.
big, some sort of headquarters there.
Los Angeles. Yeah.
Yep, I went and looked into it, and they want you to sit down, and I guess everything's recorded. And I didn't want to go through all that because my understanding, even years later, is they try to get people to admit to all kinds of
They
crimes and
do.
transgressions, and then they'll use it against you to blackmail you forever. Allegedly, that's
Yeah,
my
look
understanding.
it's called the e-meter. They bring out the e-meter, the electrocyclometer, they call it.
Yep. So to be clear, and again, correct me if I'm a little bit off here. The book Dianetics by L. Ron Hubbard was the foundational for this. This guy, L. Ron Hubbard.
Yeah, he's the founder, and I'm gonna give you a little background on this guy. His name is Lafayette Ron Hubbard.
Gotcha.
L. They call him L, but his name is Lafayette. And a lot of people don't know his name. His dad was a Navy officer, served, and he would later go into Navy. But he growing up had a lot of issues in school. He had issues. He dropped out of high school. He was in Helena, Montana. His family was in Guam. He went to Guam for a little bit, spent time there, came back. He just bounced around a lot of places. He got interested into sci-fi. He became a big sci-fi writer, pulp fiction writer. That's what he became really good at. And a lot of his stuff, but he wouldn't make a lot of money in that. Yeah, he was always struggling with his first wife. He'd been married 3 times, divorced twice, 7 kids between 3 women, right? And his life. He eventually goes back in the Navy because his father was an officer. He kind of starts school, drops out of George Washington University. He goes into the Navy. He goes in as a lieutenant. And he has issues there because a lot of people think he has this complex of his grandiose issues that he thinks is better, and he has this chip on his shoulder. He doesn't take orders well and needs to be micromanaged a lot. Right. He becomes a commander of a submarine chaser for enemy boats during the Second War in the 40s. But he has a lot of issues. He once spent 70 hours, this is documented reports, 70 hours chasing a so-called phantom enemy submarine. This is all real. So you got to understand what's the kind of guy that ends up setting this up. 70 hours. They have to call him off and say, hey, there's nothing out there. You come back in here, you're wasting our time in here. 70 hours. That's only within a few days of taking command of the submarine chaser. A few days. He only lasts 1 month, and they relieve him of his command. A few weeks later, he goes to, you have to tell this with a straight face, he goes to Coronado Islands, which is off California, but that belongs to Mexico. He thinks that's part of the U.S., and he started doing practical exercises on the islands without permission. The Mexican government goes crazy. This is documented reports. He is relieved of his command immediately. So 1 month he survives, and they say this guy needs to be in a major ship being supervised.
Or a psychiatric hospital.
Yeah, well, he does. He then claims a lot of other issues down the road also in Navy hospital. He feels disrespected, and he goes in and out of Navy hospitals claiming a lot of stuff that he says he's sick and he's having health issues and all that until he resigns in 1950, and he's out. So he then writes what you said, Dianetics, which really was like a therapy book, right? The self-help book, right? Mm-hmm. But he is filing bankruptcy, and he afraid he's going to lose copyrights over that. So I guess in conversation with people that's alleged, there's conversation that you have to start a religion to save this, and there's a lot of money you start your own religion. So it wasn't anything that he has a spiritual movement. He has a financial movement. That's what this is. It's all about money.
Sci-fi. He was not a successful sci-fi writer.
No.
Sci-fi for fiction. So this is actually a fiction religion that he spun with the sci-fi and the religion.
He needs money. He's struggling. He has kids. Second wife. They're getting tried. So, but just tell me, look at what happened to him in the Navy. Disgraceful, right? He couldn't command anything. So he has a lot of issues going on. He's just the type of person that's all over. He's all over. Right. So that's where he starts that, and it begins to pick up. And he learns from other issues that he wants to have more control, more centralized control of Scientology than he had in Dianetics. Dianetics, he wasn't respected by the board of psychology. And a lot of people said, this is quack. This is not something you want to follow. Doctors were rejecting his theory. They said, this guy is all over the planet. So people were rejecting that, but he made it a religion. So, and he said it has to be more centralized. You have to bring people in. You have to go through a process. And then for more learning, you have to go through the central branch where he's at. You start with it's like a franchise. So he pretty much started as like a franchise, right? The lower level, you got to pay 10% of your earnings back to the central church. And then the higher learning has to go back to the central church, was more lucrative for them, and he keeps more of the same money.
Right.
And again, and those family members that you're around, you have to disconnect from them, right? You can't be around anybody who does not agree, who says bad, because they're going to get you away from that, and he doesn't want all that. So that's part of the Scientology culture that he develops, and he starts making money, and it starts becoming lucrative because it spreads from Los Angeles, then DC, and other places. But there's a lot of complaints, a lot of abuses, right? Families being separated, people haven't spent a lot of money. Physical abuse allegations come out also from high-ranking members against staff members. Also, abusive hours, or violation of labor laws, forcing people to work 12, 14-hour days or longer, sometimes with no sleep, little room, bad conditions. So you see the trend we had talked before in the other show on Jim Jones, right? Early, but the same time period, all this happening, the same with this is happening with Scientology. It's abusive people taking power, control. It spreads internationally. Many countries around the world see the same problems. In Australia, they write, no, we need to stop this because this is destroying families. And Britain, the same thing. In Canada, English-speaking nations are seeing it. Other places around the world are seeing it, also speak English. Scientology becomes a problem. He ends up developing this guardian group, right? Because he wants to counter all the negativity against Scientology and go proactive. IRS is threatening. They pulled already his tax exemption status in the 70s in DC church. He sees the same thing happening. So he infiltrates the IRS and other government agencies by sending his people to go apply for government jobs to find out what is going on within the IRS and other agencies against Scientology to protect their tax exempt status. Right? It's called Operation Snow White. Operation Snow White. And it's a very deep infiltration.
What year
it takes the FBI a few years to break it down, where they're even listening to live conversations going on with different IRS agents. They also use lawsuits tactics to go after high-ranking IRS SACs and ASACs to pretty much discourage them. This was full-blown attack because it was a lot of money, and he did not like what was going on.
What years was he attacking, infiltrating the IRS?
This is in the 70s. This is in the 70s. They would end up being indicted and convicted. He was a co-indicted. He was an unindicted co-conspirator in this, but his wife was indicted. High-ranking members were indicted on this, and it was brought down. They ended up doing they were convicted, conspiracy charges, and did about 6 years.
Is this the wife? I know there was somebody in his family.
Mary Sue. Her name was Mary Sue.
Is that the one who completely disappeared now?
I don't know. I don't know if she's disappeared or not.
Wife that's like disappeared. David Miskiewicz' wife.
Oh yeah, yes. That's who would take over after Hubbard.
Okay.
He would take over, yes, and that's the issues there with her too, right? But my book is more focused on the start, what happened with Hubbard. Hubbard would be indicted in France and convicted. He didn't go to trial because he was hiding in New York City, so he wouldn't be extradited to France, and he was supposed to do 5 years all there for violations of custom violations, because he will also live on a not a yacht but a big boat, a fleet that he had, and be in different ports hiding from different authorities. So what kind of founder is doing that? So
I find one of the aspects of this, especially in hindsight, what we know now about how Epstein, Maxwell, and everybody operated with these blackmail videos of these affluent people and minors and all that. And I look at the similarities, and I'm wondering why they don't go after them for this, because a lot of people that came out of there said that during the indoctrination phase, they go there vulnerable, looking for spiritual help or just experiment, see what this religion's about. And they end up telling all their deepest, darkest secrets, including God knows what crimes or what they've done behind their wife's back or to kids. And next thing you know, that's being held over their head. If you try to leave, this will, be outed, allegedly. This is what some of the people have said.
Right.
But wouldn't that be a gigantic, racketeering operation? If you're doing that,
I think so.
The government can go down and shut this organization down at a heartbeat.
Well, that's why they were indicted, right? And those guys were hit hard back in the 70s and the time. But I think, like you said, new guys learned from the old ones how to change it, make it more. I heard they want to make it. They said, well, we're afraid of that. We got to make this look more like a religion now, because you know how they were dressed. It was almost like they were in this uniform, like from the Navy, right? Yeah. You look some of the stuff they were wearing because he was in the Navy, and you look at it, or from Blockbuster Video, and it's nothing. Now they want people to be looking more like the Catholic Church.
There's another school or another big central location for them. It's in Tampa, I believe, and
Clearwater. Yeah, they got a huge look. They're all over. They have spent. They're in Los Angeles, DC, Clearwater, and these are massive facilities they have. It's not like a little building. They're enormous buildings. What these guys have, they're raking in big bucks because people tell them how much money it takes to get this knowledge. Oh yeah, to get this knowledge and get different layers and levels, you got to pay hundreds of thousands of dollars to get this knowledge.
Well, guess what? God doesn't charge for knowledge about him. It's right there in the Bible. That's my belief. So.
I think it's mind controlling, abusive. It is ludicrous and ridiculous that people and then they get these big celebrities. Hubbard was also like I said, he was not obsessed, but he had a program to get big name celebrities in there. He wanted to get in the Elvises. He wanted to get in the big celebrities at the time. And then eventually they got some decent names with Tom Cruise. You had John Travolta, Juliette Lewis. And then there's some that leave. Christopher Reeve, he played Superman. Unfortunately, he had the horrible accident that he was crippled.
Right.
That he left also. Tom Berenger left. He cost him his marriage. Remy.
Leah Remini, I've seen her.
She left Scientology. And it's difficult because she still has family members in Scientology because she grew up in it. So remember the disconnection policy.
Other supposed religions do the same thing. Like I know the Jehovah's Witnesses, they excommunicate and don't let, you can't talk to a family member who's not in the Jehovah's Witnesses. So, but yet they believe in Jesus and God and this and that. But, I think my Bible says you love the sinner, you hate the sin. But that doesn't mean you avoid your own family, even if they're not believing the way I do. You still love them and accept them. You don't have to participate in what they're doing or spend a lot of time with them. But some of these religions that people have called cults do that completely cutting off because they don't want any other outside influence to say, hey, you're making a huge mistake and here's why, and here's the proof. They don't want anybody talking to them. Yeah,
to me, that's a cult mentality, right? It's our way or the highway, right?
Right.
You're going to do it our way. You're going to learn the system. You're indoctrinated, and this is what you're going to do. If you don't like it, we're going to make your life impossible. We're going to make it very difficult for you to live. And a lot of people say there's also allegedly private investigators that target, because these operations they had, not just Snow White, but other ones would target people, any critics they had, defectors they had, right? Yeah. So what is this? This is something that, to me, it's almost like a racketeering organization that we talked about. This is criminal, in my view. This is my personal view. And allegedly, but I don't see that. I don't know what good religion does that to anybody.
That's why I said, why don't they one of these days approach it as a like
racketeering?
Racketeering.
Yeah, well, they have that tax exempt status, and they try to keep on saying they're a religion, and you're violating my religious rights, right? And they're always using those kind of tactics against the government and others and stuff. So a lot of people wonder, why is Tom Cruise and John Travolta? How did they get involved in that? And maybe it's part of that e-meter that we alluded to, right? What information they have on somewhere like that to stay there, and what does it cost? Allegedly, Tom Cruise is worth over $600 million. That's out there, right? Because of all the movies he's done, and everything else. How much do you think he's given to Scientology?
They say his title is like a thetan or something like that. There's levels with it.
And how much did that cost him to get that level? It's probably. I wouldn't be surprised he spend. They said they at least want 10% at least what you have.
Right.
And the guy at least I'm probably $100 million easy to get that level.
And that's just one celebrity. Never mind all the other people that are wrapped in.
They have a center in Los Angeles to recruit celebrities. The Scientologists do. They have the headquarters, and they have a celebrity center to cater to the ultra rich and powerful.
Because they have their psychology and their pitch all worked out just to indoctrinate them and lure them in.
And make it high end. That you're going to be in the high end level here. That's unbelievable. That is just a business for profit. Absolutely. They should not, in my opinion, they shouldn't have tax exempt status at all. That they don't deserve what they have in there. So that's kind of the things I have found out about Scientology. I think it's fascinating. It's an interesting read. A lot more information is out there and what's current on there. I just think people who are looking at it, do your homework.
I like that you dug into the background of L. Ron Hubbard, the founder of the book Dianetics. This is all just a lore. Everybody sees that book everywhere. I'm not recommending it.
No.
Stay clear of it. And so we're very, very grateful that Ignacio has done his homework, took it upon himself to put a book out to educate people, find solutions, and investigate how this founded and what some of their tactics are. Ignacio, anything else you want to say before we wrap this up? Check out his book on Scientology. You'll see the link in the description.
Just be careful, folks. Out there, anybody who makes all these promises and expect all the things from you in return and don't want you to be around your family, be leery and get out of there. That's not something you want to be a part of. There's a lot of bad people who are wolves in sheep clothing who are going to say things to you, recruit you, and what they really want to do, they have hidden agendas to steal your money, steal your life, and it's almost impossible to get out. Just watch these other celebrities with money and access, and they couldn't get out. Look how hard it was for them to get out. So be careful. Be leery of that. Don't walk, just run away. Get out of that. So thank you, Bill, for having me again on the show. You can find everything on Amazon. And again, if you like my content, we've done a lot of shows in the past. I'm all over YouTube, all over Rumble. Just type in my name, Ignacio Esteban. You can see it. More stuff coming out. I hope you guys enjoy this content. Thanks again, Bill.
Right. And we know there's talk of a movie coming about your life. So let's keep that under wraps for now. We hope that you get that going real soon.
Yeah, TV series, hopefully. TV series, yeah.
Yeah. So, Ignacio, thank you so much. Please hit like and subscribe. Check out my podcast, William Steele, True Crime. Thank you for watching Inmate to Roommate, Season 2. I'm not allowed to say, but it was a phenomenal first season. Stay tuned. Ignacio, thank you again for coming.
Thanks, guys.
I'm going to have you on again soon. God bless.
This is William Steele. Thank you for joining us. We appreciate your support. Please remember, hit the like and subscribe button now.